What does it take to transform a struggling football team into a dynasty? The Pittsburgh Steelers were once a team on the brink of collapse, with almost no hope of success. Yet, they went on to become one of the most successful franchises in NFL history. What sparked this incredible transformation? How did the team rise from the ashes and redefine what it means to dominate the game? Let's uncover the untold story of perseverance, grit, and how one team captured the heart of a city. Art Rooney wasn't just a football enthusiast. He was a man deeply connected to the city of Pittsburgh. He loved the game. But at the time, football wasn't the booming industry it is today. Back in the early 1930s, the NFL was struggling to survive, and many football teams were barely making ends meet. But Rooney, a born risk-taker, saw something in the game that others didn't. He had a vision, and he was determined to bring professional football to his hometown. Rooney didn't come from wealth or fame. In fact, it was a lucky streak at the racetrack that allowed him to purchase the Pittsburgh Pirates football team in 1933 for a mere $2,500. At that time, the team was named after the city's Major League Baseball team, which was common practice to help gain local recognition. But despite Rooney's enthusiasm, the team struggled. They couldn't get it together on the field, and financially, they were barely hanging on. The Pittsburgh Pirates football team, the precursor to the Steelers, suffered from low attendance, poor play, and a lack of consistent leadership. Rooney had to dip into his own pockets just to make payroll for the players. Each week was a fight to stay afloat. Games were played in modest stadiums with little fanfare, and the team posted dismal records. Winning was rare, and hope was often in short supply. It was clear that something needed to change, but Rooney wasn't ready to give up. As the Pirates, they endured seasons of disappointment, but Rooney's faith never wavered. He was driven by the belief that football could succeed in Pittsburgh. Rooney's dedication kept the team alive, even when other teams around the league were folding under the pressure of financial instability. He might have been a gambler by nature, but when it came to the Steelers, it was never about luck. It was about heart and determination. By the late 1930s, it was clear that the Pittsburgh Pirates football team needed a fresh start. The team had struggled both on the field and financially, and they lacked a strong identity. That's when Art Rooney made a decision that would change everything. In 1940, he decided to rename the team to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a nod to the city's booming steel industry. This wasn't just a cosmetic change. It was a way to align the team with the city's working-class values: toughness, resilience, and perseverance. The name Steelers represented more than just a football team. It became a symbol of the city's pride. Pittsburgh was known for its steel mills, and the people of the city took pride in their blue-collar roots. By renaming the team, Rooney was tapping into something deeper, the spirit of the city. It was a bold move, one that was about more than just football. It was about giving the people of Pittsburgh a team they could truly call their own. But a name change wasn't going to solve all their problems. The Steelers still faced significant challenges. Despite the new identity, they were still struggling to find success on the field. In fact, the team's performance continued to falter throughout the 1940s. However, during World War II, the NFL itself was in turmoil. Many players were drafted into the military, and the league was forced to make drastic adjustments to survive. During this time, the Steelers found themselves in a strange position. In 1943, the team merged with the Philadelphia Eagles to form the Steagles, a temporary wartime measure to cope with player shortages. The following year, the Steelers merged again, this time with the Chicago Cardinals, creating a team known as Card Pit. These were tough years for the franchise, but they kept fighting. While the team was still struggling on the field, they were managing to stay afloat, thanks in large part to Rooney's unshakable commitment. By the late 1940s, the Steelers were still far from being a winning team, but they had something invaluable: a growing fan base and a deep connection to the city of Pittsburgh. Rooney's decision to rebrand the team as the Steelers had given the people of Pittsburgh something to rally behind. The team wasn't just about football anymore. It was about representing the city's resilience and hard-working nature. The foundations of what would later become a dynasty were starting to take shape, even if success was still years away. The 1950s were not an easy decade for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Despite the growing loyalty of their fans and the solidified identity as a team that represented the toughness of Pittsburgh, they continued to struggle on the field. Wins were hard to come by, and it often felt like the team was stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. However, What happened behind the scenes during this time would lay the foundation for the future success that no one could have predicted. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Rooney began making critical changes to the team's infrastructure. He realized that in order for the Steelers to compete with the best teams in the NFL, they needed to be smarter, both in terms of coaching and drafting. This wasn't going to be a quick fix. It was going to take years of strategic planning and patience. Rooney understood that to win, they would need to find not just talented players, but the right kind of players, ones who embodied the spirit of the city and could carry the Steelers into a new era. During this time, the team's leadership began placing a stronger emphasis on scouting and player development. While victories were still scarce, they started identifying young talents that would eventually play pivotal roles in the team's future success. But the most significant change came in 1969, when Art Rooney made what would prove to be the most important decision in Steelers history, hiring Chuck Noll as the team's head coach. Chuck Noll wasn't a household name when he arrived in Pittsburgh, but he had a clear vision for the team. Noll didn't believe in quick fixes or flashy tactics. He was methodical, focused, and determined to build a team from the ground up. Noll was known for his no-nonsense approach, and he emphasized discipline, hard work, and above all, teamwork. He didn't care about star players or individual accolades. For Noll, it was all about building a team that played together and won together. One of Noll's first major moves was in the 1969 NFL Draft, where he selected Joe Green with the 4th overall pick. At the time, Green was seen as a risky choice, but Noll knew that he needed a cornerstone player to build his defense around. Joe Green wasn't just any player. He was the kind of leader who could change the culture of a team, and that's exactly what he did. Green's arrival marked the beginning of a new era for the Steelers, one defined by toughness, grit, and an unwavering commitment to winning. But Green was just the first piece of the puzzle. Over the next few years, Noll and Rooney continued to build the team through the draft, selecting players like Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Jack Lambert, and Mel Blount, players who would go on to become Hall of Famers and integral parts of the Steelers' future dynasty. The pieces were slowly falling into place, and though success didn't come overnight, the Steelers were finally on the path to greatness. The 1960s may not have been filled with championship banners or Super Bowl victories, but they were crucial in setting the stage for what was to come. The groundwork was being laid for a team that would not only dominate the NFL, but would redefine what it meant to be a champion. The Steelers were no longer just Pittsburgh's team. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with, and their time at the top was just around the corner. As the 1970s began, something extraordinary was brewing in Pittsburgh. After decades of struggling and fighting to stay relevant, the Steelers were about to become a powerhouse. And the man at the center of this transformation was Chuck Noll. By the early 70s, Noll had already begun to shape the team into something special, but it wasn't until 1974 that everything truly clicked. That year, the Steelers had what is now regarded as one of the greatest draft classes in NFL history. In a single draft, Noll selected 4 future Hall of Famers: Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Jack Lambert, and Mike Webster. It was as if all the pieces had finally fallen into place, but it wasn't just the draft that made the difference. The Steelers' identity was forged by their defense, which came to be known as the Steel Curtain. This defense was like nothing the NFL had ever seen. Led by Mean Joe Green, Jack Lambert, Mel Blount, and L.C. Greenwood, the Steel Curtain was nearly impenetrable. Opposing offenses dreaded playing against the Steelers because they knew the Steelers would grind them down. The defense didn't just stop the other team. It demoralized them. They were relentless, tough, and intimidating. Joe Green, the cornerstone of the defense, became the face of the Steelers' new identity. Green wasn't just an extraordinary athlete. He was a leader on and off the field. His intensity set the tone for the team. Along with him, Lambert brought a ferocity that struck fear into the hearts of opposing quarterbacks. Blount revolutionized the cornerback position with his physical style of play, so much so that the NFL eventually had to change the rules to limit how much defenders could hit receivers. While the Steel Curtain was the backbone of the team, the offense, led by quarterback Terry Bradshaw, running back Franco Harris, and wide receivers Lynn Swann and John Stallworth, gave the Steelers the firepower they needed to win. Bradshaw, though inconsistent early in his career, became known for his ability to perform under pressure. His big arm, combined with Harris's powerful running and the acrobatic catches of Swan and Stallworth, made the Steelers' offense just as formidable as their defense. The Steelers' first Super Bowl victory came in January 1975, when they defeated the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl IX. The defense held the Vikings to just 17 rushing yards, while Franco Harris ran for over 150 yards and a touchdown, earning him the Super Bowl MVP. It was the beginning of a dynasty, but the Steelers weren't satisfied with just one championship. They went on to win 3 more Super Bowls before the decade was over, cementing their place in NFL history. In 1976, the defense allowed only 138 points the entire season, one of the best defensive performances in NFL history. They won Super Bowl X in a hard-fought battle against the Dallas Cowboys, with Lynn Swann making a series of incredible catches that earned him MVP honors. By the end of the decade, the Steelers had become the first team to win 4 Super Bowls, with victories in Super Bowl XIII and Super Bowl XIV, both again against the Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams, respectively. Bradshaw's leadership and ability to come through in clutch moments earned him 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and the Steelers had firmly established themselves as the team to beat. The Steelers' dominance in the 1970s was about more than just the players on the field. It was a reflection of Pittsburgh itself. Tough, hard-working, and unrelenting. The Steel Curtain was more than just a defense. It was an embodiment of the city's industrial roots. Pittsburgh was known for its steel mills and blue-collar workers, and the Steelers became a source of pride for the city's residents, many of whom were factory workers and laborers. The success of the Steelers gave the people of Pittsburgh something to rally behind, and it solidified the team's place in the city's culture. The Steelers' rise to greatness wasn't just about football. It was about the city of Pittsburgh. The city was going through tough times in the 1970s, as the steel industry, which had once made it prosperous, was starting to decline. Jobs were disappearing and the city was struggling, but the Steelers gave the people of Pittsburgh something to believe in. They represented the hard-working, blue-collar spirit of the city. The team's success on the field mirrored the grit and determination of its fans. The bond between the team and the city was unbreakable. Steelers fans became known as Yinzers, a term used to describe people from Pittsburgh. These fans weren't just supporters, they were family. They stuck with the team through the tough times, and they celebrated together during the good times. The Steelers weren't just a football team, they were a source of pride for the entire city. The 1980s were a period of transition for the Steelers. Many of the players who had been part of the Steel Curtain dynasty retired, and the team had to rebuild. But even during these years of change, the Steelers remained competitive. They continued to focus on strong defense and smart drafting, ensuring that they never completely fell out of contention. In 1992, the team hired Bill Cowher as head coach. Cowher was a fiery leader who brought energy and passion to the team. Under his guidance, the Steelers made it to the Super Bowl in 1995 but lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Despite the loss, the Steelers had shown that they were still a force to be reckoned with. The 1990s were a decade of building for the future. Cowher's leadership and the team's commitment to developing young talent laid the foundation for their return to glory in the 2000s. In 2005, the Steelers returned to the top of the NFL. Led by quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and head coach Bill Cowher, the team won Super Bowl 40, defeating the Seattle Seahawks. It was the team's 5th Super Bowl victory, and it proved that the Steelers were back. But the success didn't stop there. In 2008, under head coach Mike Tomlin, the Steelers won their 6th Super Bowl, defeating the Arizona Cardinals in one of the most thrilling Super Bowl games ever. Roethlisberger's game-winning drive in the final minutes, capped by a touchdown pass to Santonio Holmes, sealed the victory. The Steelers were once again at the top of the NFL, and they showed no signs of slowing down. With a strong core of players and a commitment to excellence, the team continued to be a contender year after year. Today, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the most successful franchises in NFL history. With 6 Super Bowl titles and a legacy of dominance, they are a team that every NFL fan respects. Steelers focus on defense, their commitment to smart drafting, and their deep connection to the city of Pittsburgh have made them more than just a football team. The Steelers' success has influenced the way teams are built in the NFL. Their focus on strong defense and drafting the best available players has become a blueprint for success. Teams across the league have tried to replicate the Steelers' formula, but few have managed to achieve the same level of sustained excellence. The Steelers fan base, known as Steeler Nation, is one of the most passionate and loyal in all of sports. Whether the team is winning or losing, Steeler Nation always has their back. The bond between the team and its fans is something truly special, and it's a big part of what makes the Steelers so iconic. The Pittsburgh Steelers' journey from a struggling team to a football dynasty is a testament to perseverance, hard work, and loyalty. From Art Rooney's dream to the Steel Curtain dominance and beyond, the Steelers have left an indelible mark on NFL history. Their legacy continues to inspire new generations of players and fans alike. If you're a fan of the Steelers or just love a good underdog story, let us know your favorite moment in Steelers history by commenting below. Don't forget to share this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for more incredible sports stories.